I grew up in a little town, 2,000 population in southern Indiana. One Jewish family, mine.
In the whole county?
In the whole county. My father had a store, Rosenblatt's department store. He was in business there for 55 years, from 1920 till 1975. When he closed it, auditor said it was still making plenty of money, didn't have to close it. But my mother said she was tired of altering pants.
Well, my background started on 8th Street, Louisville, Kentucky. My parents had a grocery store. Worked somewhat in the grocery store as I grew up. We always kept the holidays. I always stayed home from school. I always went to Sunday school, so to speak, to start with, then Talmud Torah.
My Sunday school was mail order. I had an aunt, my mother's sister in Greenville, that sent me lessons in the mail about when the Jewish people was young and when the Jewish people grew up, and they had workbooks with them, filled out those questions and sent it back and forth to her. That was my education.
A lot of my best times were spent in high school playing football and not too much studying, but I made it.
How can I best describe it at Male High School? A bombdite, maybe?
An active young man.
A very active person who didn't take any garbage, I could use other words, off of anybody.
He was a tough kid. He played football, and he defended some of the kids that were not as strong as him. If they were in a fight or a battle, he stuck up for his friends. He's a tough guy that sticks up for what he believes in and will battle you over what he thinks is right.
So I certainly had some Jewish education. I knew I was Jewish, that was for sure, and my mother was so insistent that I would marry somebody Jewish, she told me every day.
In my mother's home, they were given cinnamon toast for breakfast and marry Jewish.
I got really more interested after I went to Camp Tall Trees as a camper. So when I went to camp, I met a lot of Jewish kids and made some friends in Louisville. Sure, that was very important.
When I finished high school, I was a truck driver and a latrine cleaner and a counselor at Camp Tall Trees at Otter Creek Park. And that's where I met Carol, and over the years decided to get married, raise a family.
Oh, but he came to Cannleton, which was about 80 or 90 miles down the river, like every 2 weeks, because I was still in high school. So he came to see me. He took me to my junior and senior proms. We just really had a good time.
I went to Butler for my first year of college, and then I ended up at University of Kentucky for the rest of the time and became a pharmacist.
Got married. I went to Indiana University my freshman year, and he talked me into changing my major to pharmacy so I could go with him to the UK. So I did. We got married that summer after my first year of college and moved to Lexington, and I went to pharmacy school there, married.
We had a large Jewish pharmacy fraternity, and we allowed my wife to become a member of the pharmacy auxiliary, not the fraternity.
Yeah, I could serve cookies in my spare time.
Sharon was born while they were still in pharmacy school in Lexington, U of K. Went through childbirth and everything, and my mother was still the valedictorian of the school. She was brilliant. And they moved to Louisville around when I was born. I'm number 2, and David was born, the only boy. They opened their drugstore, Wish's Drugs, in Middletown, and they had it for 25 years.
Well, he was very dedicated to his business, and we were very proud of his business. We all worked in the business.
He was a very hard worker. He had 5 children in the family, so there was a lot of mouths to feed, so he was busy with that.
I remember always looking at their beautiful family, and I went up to Carol and I said, Carol, I'm pregnant. This was the 4th time. I'm catching up with you. She said, Margie, you can run as fast as you want in the forest. You'll never catch up with me. And you know, she was right, but she sure inspired us to have a fine start. We were very pleased, and she was an example.
My parents were very involved and wanted to make sure that we had a great Jewish education, even though we went to public school. So we went to Sunday school, we went to Hebrew school. They made sure that even though we were in a small town, we were still raised with lots of Jewish values.
Rabbi Glickman with Stuart Yusman of Shalom started an NCSY group.
I was a local officer, regional. We did junior NCSY and then senior NCSY, and we had a great time.
So NCSY was a big part of their life. Helped them to know who they are.
We had Friday night dinner every Friday night together, and we went to shul on Shabbos and on Yontif.
We went to Max's, and that was the kosher meat market, and got our Shabbos meal, and so we could prepare it. And then we even got a coffee cake to have Saturday morning.
We knew that Shabbos was different, and we weren't necessarily 100% Shomer Shabbos, but it was Shomer Shabbos for us, and we knew it was Shabbos.
All the grandchildren are Shomer Shabbos to a degree. All of them. It's almost kind of miraculous when you think about how many kids that they have and what their backgrounds were, and now what all their children are, all going to yeshiva, many living in Israel. It's just an amazing thing.
You know, my mom and dad, they both thought it was so important to belong to everything. They belonged to the shul, they belonged to the JCC, they belonged, sent us to Hebrew school and Sunday school. And, a lot of people don't want to join the JCC, especially when their children would grow up. I think my parents paid the membership for the last 50 years.
My father-in-law sees a need and he goes and he fills it in the Jewish community. It was very important to him. My father-in-law and my mother-in-law get up and do stuff. They don't sit around and just complain about it. And so they're people who show that you have to get involved.
When Zach Blaustein first came to Louisville, my father befriended him. And my father was very interested in them coming to Louisville.
When I first got to Louisville, I remember getting on Facebook, and within the first 5-10 minutes, I get my first friend request. Jake Wishnia. Jake Wishnia is one of the first people here that we've met that has shared in the mission of enhancing Judaism in Louisville. Strengthening Yiddishkeit is something that him and his wife Carol care deeply about. And I believe that is the core of why he's been such an amazing supporter and friend of ours.
KITE is a group that brought young families to the community, and it's wonderful. It's wonderful for the women too. I mean, their wives have got us involved in making Hamantaschens, and Mishi Mandel, she has all different discussion groups, and they're wonderful. I've gone to many of them, and all of their programs have been great. They had lots of things for children, and it's really revitalized our community in so many ways. We've loved it, and our parents have loved it as well.
Now that he is retired, he became involved making sure that there was a mikvah. He wants to make sure that there's a school and that they can recruit new families, that they have everything any Jewish family could and would need if they moved to Louisville.
I'm interested in Jewish communities, so to speak, and what they do in other places. This is from Sarasota, Florida.
I met Jake while serving on the JCL board. Most of the time, Jake was the only Orthodox Jew on the board. And Jake was never hesitant in standing up and fighting, for what he thought was acceptable and right as it pertained to the VOD and what, the JCC's kitchens were supposed to observe and follow. He never missed an opportunity to stand up for, what he believed in and who he was representing. But he was always respectful, and I have always found Jake to be upfront, outstanding, involved human being.
Jake has done so much for the community in general, but more particularly for the Jewish community.
You don't want to go to a wedding with my in-laws if there's no assigned seating. Because if there's no assigned seating, everyone pretty much fights to sit at their table.
I remember when I first met Mrs. Wishnia, just a certain sense of simchas achayim, of happiness, smiling, full of energy. And that is something that clearly has been contagious throughout her friendships with so many people and throughout the entire community.
I feel very blessed to have Jake and Carol a part of my life. As early as I can remember, I would spend many hours at the Wishnia house, playing with Sharon and all the friends from the neighborhood. Jake and Carol always treated me kindly and helped reinforce the importance of being Jewish and to be proud of being Jewish. Whether it was walking together to synagogue for the holidays or just celebrating a simcha, they played a large role in my formative years.
My husband, Rabbi Irving Glickman, Zatzal, was pleased to accept the pulpit of Knesset Israel congregation in Louisville. And on August 3rd, 40 years ago, our families went from good friends to great machatanu. I am so pleased to join in honoring Jake and Carol Wishnia for all that they have done and still do to enhance Judaism in Louisville.
The Gemara brings down a parable of a man who's walking in the desert, and he's hot, and he's thirsty, and he's hungry, and out of nowhere comes this beautiful tree with shade, with fruit, with a stream of water. He goes and he eats, and he sits in the shade and he drinks the water, and he looks to the tree and he says, Elon, Elon, tree, oh tree, bama varechacha, how am I to bless you? Should I bless you that your fruit should be sweet? Your fruit's already sweet. Should I bless you with shade? You already have it. Should I bless you with a stream of water? You have that too. How am I to bless you? So he says, rather, you know what I should bless you? It should be the will of your Creator that all of your future saplings, the future plants and seeds that come from you, should be just like you.
This is Knesset. It was a beautiful synagogue. It still is. There's the chuppah. We 63 years, and there we are on our way out. 1957, September 1st.
I guess as you can see, we have a lot of pictures, and it helps us remember who we are and where we're going and what's our future.
Jake and Carol, it should be the will of your Creator that all of your children and your grandchildren and your great-grandchildren, may all of them, the number Kanai Nahara I don't even know, may all of them and the future descendants of the Wishnia dynasty should be just like you.
Hang on. First of all, wherever you are in your home, I think it's time we all just stand up and give a round of applause for tonight's honorees, Jake and Carol Wishnia. Jake and Carol Wishnia. Woo! Sending tov, mazel tov, sending tov, mazel tov, sending tov, mazel tov, sending tov. Yeh lanu, yeh lanu, oh lecho Yisrael. 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 Mazel tov again, Jake and Carol, for all that you mean to everybody, for all that you've done. to the Jewish community here. Before we continue, COVID-19 made it so hard to reach out to everybody. There's so many people who had so many things to say. We've got a few more feelings, a few more things that people wanted to tell everybody. So without further ado, hang on for a little bit longer, and I'll see you in just a few minutes.
Carol, Jake, Rabbi, family and friends, good evening. I'm pleased to comment on the honor bestowed on you both by the Kentucky Institute for Torah Education. I believe it's quite fitting and appropriate for the Carol and Wishnia and the Jake Wishnia that my family and I have known all of our lives to be celebrated like this. Elaine, Marlene, and I also represent your cousins, Sammy and Joe Lyon, Novel Shalom, through Sammy's foundation in honoring both of you tonight. You both did much for them. Community service is performing work or carrying out tasks that benefit others. The others can be inside your family circle or outside the circle. But both of you certainly have done and continue to do both. Jake, from visiting our father when he was suffering the side effects of having a chemo-induced dry mouth and bringing at least a half a dozen different remedies from your store for him to try, to visiting cousin Joe at Four Courts, hoping to help him sort out and timely learn to take all of his medicines. You have been there to carry out community service for your family inner circle. Carol, I can't think of a time when you were not the family member in charge of making sure that the Shiva meal was ready and waiting for those in need. In the bigger community circle, outside the family, you have both taken leadership roles, whether in the synagogues, the VOD, your pharmacy groups, or any one of many others. In closing, we want you to know that you both personify the expression Gemilut Hasadim, which has come to be known in English as those who perform acts of loving kindness. We congratulate you and wish you many more years of health and service to your community. Thank you.
Jake, just wanted to let you know you are both so very deserving of this special honor. I'm very, very proud to be a part of your family. Congratulations.
Mazel Tov, Carol and Jake. We have always loved being a part of the Wishnia family, the Kreitmans, and the whole group, and we are so proud of you and wish you much love, continued health, and happiness always.
A tribute to our lifetime friends, Carol and Jake Wishnia. Early on, we knew they were a very special couple. While going through pharmacy school as a married couple, they managed to make good grades and start a family of 5. They had a small apartment with their pharmacy book and diapers hanging just everywhere. After graduation, they both worked very hard. After a few years, Jake opened his own pharmacy. He was always the strong man as he played high school football, often outweighed by his opponents by 40 or 50 pounds. Carol, his wife, was the brains of the operation, making straight A's in pharmacy school, not only working as a retail pharmacist, but also as a hospital pharmacist. They are always fun to travel with and are easygoing and pleasant. After being married for over 60 years, they now have a train of children from the U.S. to Israel. We wish them the best and only good health. We are very blessed to have them as our very special friends, Marcia and Don Gordon. This tribute narrated by another fan, Stacy Gordon Funk, who wishes them only the best. XOXO, Uncle Jake and Aunt Carol.
Listen, Jake and I go back to our Hebrew school days and high school days, but I really got to know the guy when we were in pharmacy school together. He and Carol fed me all the way through. We studied together, we graduated together. But Jake's life, when he married Carol, it took a different path. He was no longer the guy that got involved in every fist fight you could find. He was there for himself and his family and the Jewish religion. And there will never be another Jake Wishnia.
I, of course, do not know Jake and Carol as well as Tony. I was never fed as he was, but I know they are two of the kindest, most sincere, caring, honest people, and they would do anything for anybody. They're just sweet, loving people. I don't know of anybody that deserves to be honored more than they do.
Jake, your life is just beginning, buddy. Just keep doing what you're doing. The city of Louisville, the Jewish religion, will never, ever be the same without you.
Okay.
Jake and Carol, Mazel Tov. That was beautiful. And Mazel Tov on this tremendous honor. I remember traveling to Israel as a teenager with Sharon, and it's always been one of the highlights of my life. And that trip has forged a friendship with your family that has lasted longer than I can count. And I don't even want to count that high, but we've been friends for such a long time. I can't tell you how much that your helping out, your support has meant to Anshe Sfard, has meant to me personally. And I just think that all of these years, you have just created a community that loves you guys, and that you have helped with the Louisville community in making it a cohesive and growing community for all of us. I really appreciate all of the advice and support that you've given me this past few years that have been really trying, and especially this past year with COVID. I've come to rely on you guys for more than I can say, and so has our entire community. There's really nothing more to say. I love you guys. Thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Jake and Carol, I said this to you and I'll say it again. Thank you. Thank you for allowing me. Thank you for allowing KITE. And thank you for the honor for allowing us to honor you this evening. For all that you mean to the entire Louisville Jewish community and anybody that has ever met you. Before we even knew we were going to honor you like this, the slogan of KITE's charity campaign was "Keep it up." We're going to keep it up in 2021. We're going to keep it going. And it makes sense to honor you on such an evening. Two people who have kept it up year in, year out, decades and decades for the Jewish community. Charity.com/KITE. You want to donate to the special Wishnia page, /Wishnia. Thank you all again. For those of you who still want to share that didn't make it, send me a video. We're going to put it all together in a great package for the Wishnias to hold on, and their children to hold on, and their grandchildren and great-grandchildren. Mazel Tov again, and all the best. Keep it up.